The sound of leather shoes struck against the polished marble floor, echoing like hammers of judgment. Naomi Carter was gripped tightly on both sides by two hotel security guards, dragged across the grand lobby of the Beverly Grand. Phones snapped pictures, cameras rolled, and the crowd of elite guests lifted their champagne glasses, craning their necks to witness a scene that was both grotesque and shocking. The gleaming brass plaque on the wall reflected the light of the crystal chandeliers. Carter Hospitality Group. That very name belonged to the woman now being treated like a criminal. Naomi, 40, 4 years old, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy suit, held an Italian leather briefcase worth more than a month's salary for most of the staff here. She said nothing, allowing the judging stares to burn into her. Those cold eyes were not of someone helpless, but of a strategist observing every detail. The light reflecting off cell phone cameras, the number of witnesses, every insult thrown her way. In that moment, the 5-star lobby seemed split into two worlds. On one side, VIP guests lounged on white leather sofas, golden light washing over their smug faces. On the other, Naomi, the true owner, was forced to walk like a stranger, unwelcome in the luxury she herself had built. The morning had started normally. Naomi arrived at exactly 10:30, on schedule. The high ceiling glowed under crystal chandeliers, their brilliance dancing across cream-colored marble walls. She placed a heavy platinum American Express card on the reception desk. Her voice was warm, yet firm. "Good morning. I'd like to check in. Reservation under the name Carter." Chloe Martin, 26, the blonde receptionist, didn't bother looking up from her screen. A forced smile with a hint of disdain flickered across her face. She scanned Naomi from head to toe like an X-ray. Not spotting a designer handbag, not seeing a haute couture dress, she immediately concluded, this guest was not the right class. "Ma'am, this is a 5-star hotel," Chloe said softly, just loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Even our cheapest rooms are $800 a night. Are you sure you're in the right place?" The air froze. A few glances turned her way. A young businessman discreetly lifted his phone to live stream. The viewer count ticked upward, 212, 476, 893. Naomi's expression did not change. She lightly raised her briefcase, revealing the edge of a thick folder stamped in bold red with the seal of Carter Hospitality Group. But Chloe ignored the paperwork and smirked. "Looking at you, I think Motel 6 outside might suit you better." The glass doors behind the desk swung open. Gregory Shaw, the 45-year-old deputy manager, stepped out. Lean frame, salt, and pepper hair, glossy red tie. He gave Naomi a look laced with disdain and irritation. "What's going on, Chloe?" "This woman insists she has a reservation," Chloe pointed, her voice sharp. "Clearly she can't afford it. I was just trying to spare her the embarrassment." Gregory nodded, his tone dripping with superiority. "You should leave, ma'am. This hotel serves guests who understand class and can pay. We cannot allow your presence to disturb our valued clientele." Naomi glanced at her Rolex. 10:47. Exactly 73 minutes until the board meeting. A helicopter was waiting on the hotel roof. Instead of arguing, she pulled out a gleaming black titanium card, the highest level of membership. It shimmered under the lights. Gregory cast it a dismissive glance. Fake cards are everywhere online. I'll call security. The crowd buzzed. The live stream hit 1,100 viewers. Comments poured in. Blatant discrimination. This is 2025, for God's sake. Keep recording. Don't stop. Two uniformed men in black approached, their polished shoes thudding under the golden light. They flanked Naomi, ready to escort her out. She remained calm, opening a leather notebook to jot down every detail: names, times, attitudes, number of witnesses. Her handwriting was sharp and precise, each stroke like a blade carved into the page. Gregory lowered his voice, but made sure everyone in the lobby could hear. This is your last chance. Leave or I'll call the police. We won't let our careers be ruined by a delusional pretender. Naomi lifted her head, her eyes sharp as steel. She spoke softly, just enough for the microphones on the phones to capture. I had planned to handle this quietly. But perhaps some lessons can only be learned the painful way. A chilling silence fell. Those words did not belong to someone powerless. They carried the weight of someone who knew she held the card none of them had yet recognized. The lavish lobby felt like a stage. The heavy thud of security guards' shoes pounded against the marble floor, while whispers swelled like waves. Naomi Carter walked between the two large men, yet her posture never faltered. Each step was firm, as if she were deliberately walking into an important meeting rather than being escorted out. Guests fell silent before quickly raising their phones. Shaky lenses and trembling footage captured the moment, but the light in their eyes gleamed with awareness. They knew they were witnessing a scene destined to spread. On the live stream, the viewer count soared. 3,400, 5,912, 8,103. Comments fired non-stop. Discrimination in broad daylight. Unbelievable in a 5-star hotel. Naomi remained quiet, her hand gripping her Italian leather briefcase. She thought about the board meeting on the rooftop. 73 minutes dwindling down to 60. Yet instead of panic, a cold realization flickered. Right time, right place, right audience. The golden elevator doors slid open. A figure emerged. Elaine Porter, 50. 5. The hotel's general manager stepped out. Her silver-gray suit was tailored to perfection, her hair tied in a neat bun, high heels striking urgently against the floor. Her face drained of color as she saw the scene before her. A well-dressed woman restrained by security, while the entire lobby buzzed with recording. What is happening here? Elaine's voice was cool but unsteady. Gregory Shaw rushed forward, bowing slightly with feigned respect. Madam Porter, this woman is causing trouble, insisting on checking in when it is obvious she cannot afford to. I am handling it to protect the hotel's image. Naomi lifted her gaze, locking eyes with Elaine. For an instant, she caught a flicker of something in the director's stare. It wasn't curiosity, but the same old judgment, the instinct to size someone up in seconds, to classify them as either wealthy guest or unworthy outsider. Elaine turned to Naomi, her tone both smooth and sharp. Madam, I apologize for the inconvenience, but this is a private establishment. We reserve the right to refuse guests who do not meet our standards. The word standards rang out like a slap. The lobby fell into silence. Naomi gave a faint smile. She opened her briefcase and placed on the marble counter a titanium bank card, sleek, black, and heavy. The emblem of hundreds of millions in assets. The sharp clack echoed through the air. A few guests recognized it instantly, gasping in disbelief. But Gregory scoffed. "Fake cards are everywhere. Don't think we are that easy to fool." The murmurs spread rapidly. The live stream spiked past 20,000 viewers. Comments exploded. "That's a real cod. This man is an idiot. Hat and hotel discrimination." At that moment, a voice thundered from the mezzanine balcony. A tall, silver-haired woman with piercing eyes descended the staircase. Federal Judge Margaret Lee, 62 years old. "I have been watching from the beginning," her voice carried with authority. "I am Judge Lee of the federal court. What I have just witnessed here could constitute a serious violation of civil rights. This woman presented valid identification, yet you still refused her service. Is this the official policy of Carter Hospitality?" A wave of shock rippled through the crowd. Elaine Porter faltered visibly. Gregory Shaw's face drained white, his hand clutching the counter in panic. Chloe Martin, the young receptionist, swallowed hard, beads of sweat forming on her forehead. Naomi stood still, her sharp eyes sweeping over each face. All of them were now trapped in the chess game she had laid out. A vibration came from her briefcase. Naomi answered, switching to speakerphone. Her assistant's voice filled the air. "Madam Carter, the helicopter is ready. The weather window closes in 60 minutes. The crowd froze. The word helicopter echoed across the lobby. Gregory sneered. "Still trying to bluff? Security, get her out of here now!" The guards tightened their grip, but hesitated. Judge Lee was standing right there. Television cameras had arrived, reporters pushing to the front lines. A microphone thrust into the air. "This is Channel 7 News reporting live from the Beverly Grand, where an act of blatant discrimination is unfolding." Elaine felt sweat trickle down her neck. She tried to steady her voice. "Everyone, please remain calm. This is just a misunderstanding. We are simply following procedure." Naomi closed her leather notebook, her voice low and heavy, each word like a nail driven in place. Procedure? Or discrimination? Every camera here, dozens of witnesses, and a federal judge, all are listening to how you choose to name this. The entire lobby held its breath. The truth had not yet been spoken, but the air had shifted. Naomi was no longer a woman being escorted out, but a commander waiting for the precise moment to strike. The chandeliers above cast a bright light over her face, while Elaine and Gregory were swallowed in uneasy shadows. On the live stream, the counter leapt to 47,000 viewers. Naomi drew a slow breath. She knew the moment to turn the tables was near. And when it came, every face here, from the young receptionist to the smug manager to the haughty director, would never forget this morning. The grand lobby was silent like a theater, as Naomi Carter's voice echoed. That silence was not peace, but the tense stillness before an explosion. Cameras from reporters clicked relentlessly. The live stream surged past 50,000 viewers, thousands of comments flooding in. "She's too calm. Watch closely. Something's coming." Naomi slowly turned, allowing the lenses to capture her entire face. There was no panic, no fury, only the cold composure of someone who knew she held control. She opened her Italian leather briefcase. Not just a subtle reveal this time, but wide open. The chandelier's light glinted off a whole thick stacks of documents, stamped with bright red seals, and a brown leather binder embossed with gold letters, confidential, executive level only. Naomi pulled out a set of papers, her voice steady and resonant like a bell. Before you decide how to proceed, remember, this entire incident is being recorded by security cameras, live streams, live television, and most importantly, under the witness of a federal judge. Elaine Porter froze. Gregory Shaw felt his throat turn dry. Chloe Martin tried to shrink behind the front desk, her heart pounding wildly. Naomi paused, then drew out a slim leather wallet. She raised an identification card toward the cameras. Naomi Elizabeth Carter, she read clearly, Chairwoman and Chief Executive Officer of Carter Hospitality Group. A wave of shock rippled across the lobby. The cameras zoomed in on Elaine's pale face. Gregory stumbled half a step back, his lips moving without sound. Chloe covered her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. Naomi continued. She placed down a large, silver-edged employee badge engraved, Chief Executive Officer, Carter Hospitality Group. The company's logo glowed under the lights. 3 months ago, Naomi went on, I completed the acquisition of this hotel chain for $2.1 billion. All 89 properties across 12 states are owned by Carter Hospitality. On March 18th, every management employee received an email notification, along with mandatory training on anti-discrimination policies. Murmurs erupted in the crowd. Several guests pulled out their phones, quickly searching their inboxes for Carter Hospitality. Indeed, the emails appeared with the subject line, Urgent, New Ownership Protocol. The evidence was undeniable. Elaine trembled as she pulled up her company inbox, dozens of unread emails flashing before her. She swallowed hard. Naomi looked directly into the news cameras. You have just witnessed a textbook example of management failure. In less than 30 minutes, this hotel turned itself into the epicenter of a public act of discrimination. And it happened under the supervision of individuals who had been warned, who had been trained, yet still chose to ignore. Gregory suddenly shouted, as if clinging to some shred of authority. You think just because you're the chairwoman, you can humiliate us in public like this? Naomi pivoted, facing him directly. The ceiling lights illuminated her eyes, her words firing like bullets. You humiliated yourself, Gregory Shaw. Your personnel file has 3 complaints of discrimination in the last 4 years. Twice you were forced into counseling. Once you were placed on probation. Today is the 4th time. Under Ethics Clause 4.7 of your employment contract, you know exactly what that means. Gregory stood paralyzed, his body drained of strength, stumbling back against the marble counter. Naomi turned to Elaine. And you, Elaine Porter. You are paid $185,000 a year to ensure this hotel operates to standard. Yet 17 emails, all ignored. All. The policy is clear. Any act of discrimination, regardless of the victim's identity, results in immediate termination. Elaine shook violently, whispering in desperation, If I had known, it was you. Naomi cut her off, her tone cold yet steady. No, the problem is not whether you recognized me. The problem is that you and your staff felt comfortable treating anyone this way. That is the sickness. Scattered applause broke out. A guest, a civil rights attorney from upstairs, stepped forward and said clearly, "Ms. Carter, if you need, I will support all legal filings. This is perfect evidence for a civil rights violation." Naomi gave a faint smile and nodded in thanks. "My legal team is already prepared. All the documents are waiting for me to give the green light, and trust me, I will." The light in the lobby now seemed to converge on Naomi, while Elaine, Gregory, and Chloe sank into the shadows of fear. The live stream soared past 73,000 viewers. Hashtags hotel discrimination and hashtag Naomi Carter flooded social media. Naomi closed her briefcase, her voice firm. "Now, we will not stop here in the lobby. We are going to the boardroom, because true change does not happen where people whisper. It happens where decisions are made, inside the council chamber." A wave of excitement rippled through the crowd. People began to follow her, as if witnessing a march. The elevator doors opened, glowing brightly, waiting. Naomi stepped inside, turned back, her gaze piercing through the cameras. "Do you want to see what real change in a corporation looks like? Then come with me." The doors closed. The lobby buzzed. A new era was beginning. The elevator doors closed, sealing off the chaos of the lobby from another world. The confined space was utterly silent, broken only by the hum of the machinery and the pounding hearts of those who knew judgment was near. Naomi Carter stood tall, her eyes fixed on the digital numbers ticking upward floor by floor. Beside her, Elaine Porter's pale face twitched as she gripped her handbag tightly. Gregory Shaw hung his head, beads of sweat dripping onto his crimson tie. Chloe Martin trembled, her fingers clutching the edge of her notebook as if it were a lifeline. Behind them, reporters, Judge Margaret Lee, a few VIP guests, and an entire camera crew crowded together. The elevator was not just carrying people, it was carrying the crushing weight of justice. Ding! The doors slid open. The penthouse boardroom unfolded like another realm. Glass walls framing the sweeping midday view of Beverly Hills. A massive walnut table polished to a mirror sheen. Italian leather chairs arranged in a curve. And a towering LED screen casting a cold blue glow. Naomi walked straight in, placing her leather briefcase at the head of the table. Every movement was deliberate, no gesture wasted. Instinctively, everyone else clustered around her, as if bracing for a trial. She pressed a button on the remote. The screen lit up with the Carter Hospitality Group logo. Naomi's voice rang out, firm and commanding. "Before we talk about what happened in the lobby, let's look at the bigger picture. Here are the most recent quarterly figures." The slide changed. Annual gross revenue, $2.1 billion. Net profit margin, 18.4%. Litigation and settlement reserve, $122.7 million. Elaine shuddered. She knew that reserve existed only because of the countless discrimination complaints that had never been fully resolved. Naomi continued, her voice striking like a gavel. "This property alone, the Beverly Grand, generates $3.7 million per year. Yet service complaints in the last quarter rose by 32%, with 18% directly tied to discriminatory behavior." Chloe's breath quickened. Gregory swallowed hard. Both of them knew that these numbers were not just statistics, but an indictment carved in cold precision. Naomi switched the slide. Personnel files appeared. Gregory's photo enlarged, with a list beneath. 3 discrimination complaints in 4 years. 2 mandatory counseling sessions. 1. Probation. Naomi locked her gaze on him. Mr. Barnes, or rather Mr. Shaw, 4 strikes. Ethics Clause 4.7. Repeated violations result in immediate termination without severance. Do you have anything to justify yourself? Gregory opened his mouth, but only a heavy sigh escaped. He collapsed into a chair, his face drained of all color. Naomi turned to Elaine, shifting the slide. The screen filled with a cascade of emails marked Urgent, Go, New Ownership Protocol. 17 messages, all unopened. Mrs. Porter, I want your explanation. Why did you ignore 17 directives from new ownership, including mandatory anti-discrimination policies? Elaine stammered. I thought they were just formalities. I was too busy with daily operations. Naomi cut her off, her tone sharp and cold. Your job was to ensure your staff never repeated this mistake. And today, in front of thousands of witnesses, your negligence turned this hotel into the epicenter of a media storm. A reporter raised a microphone. Mrs. Carter, what do you plan to do right now? Naomi looked directly into the camera, then across the room. We are not just talking about punishment. We are talking about systemic reform. Starting here, starting now. She opened another file, the slide flashing Immediate Action Plan. Unconscious bias training for all customer-facing staff to be completed within 30 days. Carter Welcome App, an anonymous channel for guests and employees to report any discriminatory behavior. Monthly diversity audits by an independent firm, published publicly in quarterly reports. The room erupted in murmurs. Some lower-level employees exchanged glances, glimpses of real hope flickering in their eyes. Naomi delivered the final blow, her voice resonant and unyielding. Management will now be evaluated based on diversity metrics and guest satisfaction scores. Fail to meet them, and you will be dismissed. No more excuses. Judge Lee nodded, her eyes solemn. Mrs. Carter, I must say, this is the most comprehensive reform plan I have ever seen in the hospitality industry. Naomi allowed herself a faint smile, though her eyes remained razor-sharp. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not about revenge. This is about ending the toxic cycle once and for all. From this day forward, every Carter Hospitality Hotel must be a place where no one is diminished because of their skin color or their status. The atmosphere thickened, heavy with consequence. Cameras zoomed in on every face. Elaine pale as a ghost, Gregory broken in his chair, Chloe trembling, while Naomi stood tall, the sunlight streaming through the glass, casting her in a radiant glow. Outside, the live stream surged past 100,000 viewers. They were witnessing not just a reversal of power, but the birth of a new standard in the hotel industry. Naomi closed the file, her voice ringing with finality. You have 2 choices. Step forward with me to build a new system, or stay behind and be left behind. The decision will be made within 24 hours. No one replied, but everyone understood. In that moment, the history of Carter Hospitality and the fate of their own careers had turned down a road with no return. The atmosphere in the boardroom was strung tight like a violin string. The hum of the air conditioning filled the silence, drowning out the ragged breathing of those seated under the cold light cast by the LED screen. Naomi Carter stood at the head of the table, her hand resting lightly on a leather dossier, her voice steady, each word striking the wooden surface like a hammer. In just 30 minutes downstairs in the lobby, this hotel created a legal liability ranging from $200,000 to $500,000, not counting damages for emotional distress or federal civil rights penalties. All of it caused by arrogance and lack of control. The room shuddered. Elaine Porter bit her lip hard, her vision blurring as she imagined those colossal numbers compared to the hotel's operating budget. Gregory Shaw kept his head down, his trembling hands betraying his knowledge that his name sat at the center of the accusations. Naomi switched on the speakerphone, connecting with the legal department. The clear, icy voice of the chief counsel filled the room. "Mrs. Carter, we have completed the documents. Based on live stream evidence, witnesses, and the presence of a federal judge, this case qualifies as grounds for a federal file. Estimated damages, $500,000. Risk escalates if the media continues to amplify the story." Naomi nodded. "Thank you, Sarah." She hung up, sweeping her gaze across the room. "That is the cost of negligence. And now let me make this clear. This company cannot afford a single mistake more." She advanced the slide. Names appeared on the screen. Gregory Shaw, assistant manager, 4 violations. Ethics contract, clause 4.7. Immediate termination, no severance. Naomi turned directly to him. "Mr. Shaw, your 23-year career ends here. You will receive no compensation. The decision is effective immediately." Gregory opened his mouth, but no words emerged. He slumped into his chair, his eyes vacant, like a puppet with its strings cut. Naomi moved to the next file. Elaine Porter, General Manager. Annual salary, $185,000. 17 urgent emails from headquarters, ignored. Highest level management violation of anti-discrimination policy. Naomi spoke slowly, but her voice carried like thunder. "Mrs. Porter, I am giving you one chance. Either you submit your resignation within 24 hours with a public apology, or I will terminate you right here under full breach of contract." Elaine inhaled sharply, her eyes filling with tears. She knew that if she was fired, her reputation in the industry would be destroyed. She lowered her head and whispered, trembling, "I will resign and take responsibility." Naomi nodded slightly, then advanced to the next slide. Chloe Martin, front desk clerk. Employment, 6 weeks. Act of discrimination, direct refusal of service, contemptuous attitude. Chloe froze, her voice trembling. I didn't know you were the CEO. I just thought. Naomi cut her off, her gaze sharp as steel. "It is not about not knowing who I am. It is because you believed you could treat anyone this way. This is the most important lesson. Identity must never determine human dignity." A heavy silence fell. Naomi's voice softened, but remained steady. "But I believe young people can change. You will lose this job. However, the Carter Foundation will cover full tuition for a 6-month program in service and cultural training at the community college. If you complete it, there will still be opportunities ahead." Chloe broke down in tears, overwhelmed with both gratitude and shame. The entire room witnessed it, some sighing, others nodding in quiet approval. Naomi closed the dossier. She placed her hand on the table, her voice resonant and commanding. "As for the security team, 3 of you followed orders, but you failed to question them. You will receive formal reprimands, along with mandatory retraining. 6 months probation. Reoffend, and you are gone immediately." The 3 large men bowed their heads in unison. "We understand." The air was heavy, but there was also a sense of justice served. Naomi stood tall, the sunlight streaming through the glass behind her, casting a halo, like glow around her. What happened today is not just an incident. It is a warning bell for the entire industry. In just 30 minutes, a hotel can become a global media disaster. But from this moment, we also have the chance to rebuild, to change at the roots. She turned toward the reporters' cameras, her words sharp and deliberate. "There is no place for discrimination in service, no excuse for demeaning human dignity. And from today, Carter hospitality will become the model that proves respect is not only ethics, it is profit." Applause broke out, hesitant at first, then swelling, rolling across the room. Judge Lee nodded in approval. Reporters scrambled to capture every detail. Naomi ended the presentation, her eyes shining bright. "Tomorrow, the new personnel list will be released. Anyone not ready to walk this path should leave it now. I will not look back." In that moment, there was no doubt left. Naomi Carter had just transformed a personal humiliation into a revolution for an industry. The boardroom seemed to be holding its breath after Naomi Carter delivered her final declaration. Not a sound stirred, only the light flooding in from the surrounding glass walls, glinting on her hair like a crown of authority. Cameras zoomed in close, lenses capturing Naomi's eyes, sharp, unyielding, yet filled with unwavering resolve. She pressed a button, and the screen shifted to a new slide, the title glowing boldly, "Systemic Reform Plan." Naomi moved slowly around the table, her voice steady, deliberate, like a commander guiding her audience into a battle fought without weapons. What happened this morning was not just individual misconduct. It is the symptom of a systemic illness, the silent disease of discrimination in the service industry. And let me be clear, we will not cover it up. We will cut it out at the root. She pointed to the screen. Bullet points appeared. Unconscious bias training. 100% of employees, from security guards to top managers, must complete it within 30 days. Carter Welcome App E, allowing guests and staff to anonymously report discriminatory behavior, all reports to be handled directly at the corporate level, not filtered through intermediaries. Independent diversity audits. Every month, an external consultancy will assess and publish results in quarterly reports, culture and guest satisfaction. Index, to become the primary measure in evaluating managers. Failure equals removal. The clatter of keyboards echoed from the journalists in the room, documenting every word. Some employees whispered anxiously, faces caught between worry and hope. Naomi paused, fixing her gaze on Elaine Porter. No more excuses. Anyone who wishes to remain at Carter Hospitality must walk with me on this path. If not, that door is always open. Elaine bowed her head, fully aware her last chance had already slipped away. Naomi turned toward the cameras, her voice ringing out, every phrase sharp as a slogan. No respect, no job, no fairness, no profit. This will be the survival code of Carter Hospitality. Judge Margaret Lee, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. Her voice was calm, resonant with authority. Mrs. Carter, what you are doing today is not only saving this hotel chain. You are laying the groundwork for a new legal standard. I will report directly to the Department of Justice on this reform model. A ripple of shock ran through the room. Some employees whispered, "The Department of Justice?" The issue was no longer internal. It had become a national symbol. Naomi nodded firmly. The more transparent we are, the stronger we become. Cameras turned to Chloe Martin. The young woman sat hunched, her face wet with tears. Naomi looked at her, stern but not without compassion. "Chloe, you made a mistake. But I am giving you a second chance through training. If you take it, you will learn that service is not just about smiling at guests, but about safeguarding the dignity of every person who walks through our doors. Remember that." Chloe nodded rapidly, her tears flowing in relief and shame. Naomi returned to the table and opened the next slide. Partnerships. The logos of the NAACP, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and Howard University appeared in sequence. Naomi declared, "We will partner with civil rights organizations and universities to establish the first hospitality program dedicated to anti-discrimination. Graduates will be given priority hiring across all Carter Hospitality properties." Reporters raised their heads instantly, scribbling at full speed. Some live streamers gasped. The hospitality industry has never seen this before. Naomi allowed herself a brief smile. "That's right. And it starts today." A phone buzzed on the table. Naomi switched to speakerphone. The voice of Robert Chen, chairman of the board, rang out powerfully. "Naomi, we are watching live. The entire board fully supports you. Any action you take today has our complete backing." Naomi's reply was short and decisive. "Thank you, Robert. Prepare a global media package. We are going to turn this incident into a declaration for the entire industry." The room fell silent. No one looked at Naomi as an unfit guest anymore. Now she was a leader rewriting the rules. Naomi closed her folder, her eyes drifting to the glass wall, gazing at the sunlit city of Beverly Hills below. Her voice dropped, deep and resonant. "Do you know what I see when I look down there? Thousands of people. Tourists, workers, citizens, people who simply want to be treated fairly. If Carter Hospitality cannot guarantee that, then we do not deserve to exist. But I believe we can, and we will." She turned back, her eyes hard as steel. "From today forward, Carter Hospitality is not just a chain of hotels. It will be a symbol of respect." The room was silent, then erupted into thunderous applause. Cameras captured the faces of employees still seated, some crying, some pressing their lips together, some clenching their fists as if they had just been given new strength. The live stream soared past 150,000 viewers. Hashtags @Naomi Carter, #Respect First, and @Hotel. Reform climbed to the top of the national trends. Naomi sat down at the head of the table, her voice resolute. This meeting is adjourned, but the reform has only just begun. The applause slowly faded, leaving only the scratching of pens from reporters and the restless shifting of those who knew their fate was hanging by a thread. Naomi Carter sat upright at the head of the table, her hand resting firmly on the thick leather dossier. She drew in a deep breath, then rose again, her eyes sweeping across the room. "Do you think today is only about punishment?" Naomi's voice rang out, firm and resonant. "No, this is reconstruction, and to rebuild, we need numbers." She pressed the remote. The screen lit up with a new slide. Performance metrics. Customer satisfaction score from minority groups, 62%, with a target of 85% within 12 months. Employee diversity representation, 34%, with a target of 50%. Within 18 months. Reports of discrimination resolved within 24 hours. Currently 41%, with a target of 100% effective immediately. Naomi turned, her eyes gleaming under the LED reflection. These are not decorative numbers. They are the survival contract of Carter Hospitality. From this day forward, careers, promotions, and bonuses will be tied directly to these metrics. Another slide appeared with a red title. Profit sharing linked to diversity metrics. Naomi spoke slowly, pressing on each word. Starting next quarter, every Carter Hospitality hotel will implement profit sharing. If a hotel demonstrates improvement in diversity and customer satisfaction metrics, every employee, from front desk to general manager, will receive additional bonuses. When a hotel thrives because it treats people fairly, everyone shares the reward. A murmur rippled through the room. A few security guards exchanged looks, for the first time showing glimmers of hope. A female server whispered, "Not just punishment, but reward." This is the first time I've heard something like this. Naomi turned toward that group of employees, offering a faint smile. Exactly. Fairness is not only about preventing the wrong. Fairness must also create real benefits when everyone chooses to do the right thing. Gregory Shaw still sat slumped, but other employees began to lift their heads, looking at Naomi with new eyes. They no longer saw a woman humiliated in the lobby, but a leader transforming disgrace into opportunity. Naomi continued, "We will launch the Williams Welcome app this week. I want 50,000 downloads within 24 hours. Every discrimination report will go directly to headquarters, and I guarantee not one report will be ignored." The words struck Elaine Porter like stones. 17 unread emails suddenly weighed on her like boulders. Naomi clicked to the next slide, a national map dotted with red marks. 47 of our properties show signs of discrimination. 12 require immediate replacement of management. Beverly Grand, right here, ranks third worst on the list. A sharp gasp echoed through the room. Naomi's voice cut through with precision. Numbers do not lie. And today, every camera captured the truth. But I promise you this. This will not remain a stain. It will become a turning point. Starting tomorrow, Beverly Grand will be known as the place people come to feel most welcome. Judge Margaret Lee leaned forward, her eyes filled with respect. Mrs. Carter, I have witnessed countless discrimination lawsuits, but I have never seen a corporation turn crisis into systemic opportunity like this. This is a lesson for the entire industry. Naomi inclined her head slightly. Your Honor, I am not fighting for myself. I am fighting for thousands of customers who have been disrespected, for thousands of employees who have stayed silent out of fear. From today, they will no longer be silent. Suddenly, a young reporter raised his hand. Mrs. Carter, are you not afraid that shareholders will push back because the cost of reform is too high? Naomi looked straight into the camera, smiling with certainty. No, because I have the data. At the properties where we tested these reforms, customer satisfaction rose 23%. Revenue increased 37%. Ladies and gentlemen, respect is not just morality, it is profit. The camera zoomed in, capturing that confident smile. The live stream surged past 180,000 viewers, comments flooding in. Legendary CEO. This is real leadership. Naomi closed the presentation, her voice lowering but carrying deeper weight. I will give you all 24 hours to decide. Either you walk with me and become part of the solution, or you will be left behind by history. I will not accept half measures. She lifted her head, her eyes piercing each person in turn. The atmosphere in the room trembled, as if everyone were standing on the line between survival and extinction. And then, something unexpected happened. A long-serving staff member, his hair streaked with grey, stood up and slowly began to clap. The sound echoed, then spread. Within moments, the entire room erupted in applause. Naomi did not smile. She only gave a slight nod, her eyes blazing with both steel and fire. Because she knew the real battle was only just beginning. The next morning, golden sunlight streamed through the massive glass windows of the main conference hall at the Beverly Grand. Hundreds of employees had gathered, utterly silent, broken only by the faint tapping of shoes on marble and the clicking cameras of the press crowding at the back. The air was so tense that many clasped their hands tightly to stop them from trembling. Naomi Carter entered. She wore the same sharp navy suit as the day before, but her face carried an uncanny calm. Beside her stood Judge Margaret Lee, several of the company's attorneys, and Dr. James Morrison, the civil rights lawyer who had volunteered to join. Their presence turned this meeting into more than a corporate gathering. It had become a national event. Naomi stopped at the wooden podium, the microphone angled toward her. Her voice rang out, low and resonant, like a bell calling for reckoning. Yesterday, this hotel became the focus of the entire world, and we, the people in this room, are living witnesses to how a single mistake can turn into an opportunity for change. A few eyes met in the crowd, tense and weary, but flickering with hope. Naomi opened the dossier on the podium and pulled out the first page. First, personnel. The entire room held its breath. Naomi glanced at the list, then read each name with deliberate clarity. Elaine Porter, general manager of this hotel, tendered her resignation at 6 o'clock this morning. In her letter, she admitted to poor management, apologized to all staff and customers. That letter will be made public across the entire system. A wave of murmurs rose. Many were not surprised, but the impact was undeniable. Naomi continued. Gregory Shaw, assistant manager, was officially terminated yesterday. With 3 prior violations and this incident, his ethics contract has been voided. He will not receive any compensation. Some staff nodded, accepting it as the inevitable price. Chloe Martin, front desk clerk, has been dismissed during her probation period. But I want everyone to understand, this is not the end. The Carter Foundation will fund her full tuition for 6 months of training in service and cultural conduct. If she completes it, she will have the chance to begin again, not here, but elsewhere. A mistake does not have to end a life. The room rippled with shock. A few scattered claps rose, small but resolute. Chloe, sitting quietly in the back, her eyes red and swollen, buried her face in her hands, sobbing. Naomi paused, her gaze shifting to the line of security guards. As for security, you followed orders, but forgot that a wrong order is still wrong. You will receive formal reprimands, 6 months of probation, and must complete unconscious bias training. If you pass, you may continue serving. If not, this is the end of your path. The 3 large men bowed in unison. We understand, Mrs. Carter. Naomi closed the dossier and looked across the packed hall. Her voice slowed, deepened, engraving every word into memory. Today, we end an old era, but at the same time, we begin a new one. Beverly Grand, once a symbol of arrogance and discrimination, will now become a symbol of fairness and respect. The screen behind her lit up, displaying the new logo, Respect First, Dignity Always. Beneath it shone the new Carter Hospitality slogan, Unveiled Worldwide. We will launch immediately the Carter Welcome app, independent audits, and a profit-sharing program tied to diversity metrics. Customers do not come here only to stay. They come to feel valued, and from now on, they will find that here. Applause erupted. This time, it was no longer hesitant. It spread, thunderous, blending with the relentless flash of cameras. Outside, the international press had already filled the lobby. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, NHK, all were present. The hashtag #RespectFirst shot to #1 on Twitter worldwide within just 2 hours. A reporter shouted as Naomi stepped down, "Mrs. Carter, do you believe this movement will spread to the entire industry?" Naomi stopped, turned, her voice firm but effused with conviction. Not just the hotel industry. If one hotel can change, any industry can. This is not just about Carter Hospitality. This is about society. In the crowd of employees, a young waitress whispered to her colleague, "For the first time, I feel proud to work here." The other nodded, eyes shining with renewed belief. Maybe we really are living in history. Naomi walked out of the hall, the morning light cascading over her shoulders, illuminating the beginning of something new. And in that moment, everyone knew. The Carter Hospitality Revolution had officially begun. Not just within the hotel system, but within the hearts of all who witnessed it. News spread like wildfire. Within just 1 day, the incident at the Beverly Grand had become the centerpiece of global media. Footage of Naomi Carter being dragged across the lobby, only to turn the tables by revealing her true identity, was replayed again and again on CNN, BBC, and Fox News. The hashtag #RespectFirst surpassed 5 million mentions within 48 hours. Major newspapers called the event the shock that redefined the American hotel industry. Naomi did not hide. She walked straight into the storm of media attention, answering interviews with calm composure. "We do not just sell rooms, we sell respect. Without that, we do not deserve to exist." That statement spread like a new mantra. 3 days later, Carter Hospitality headquarters in New York hosted an international press conference. Hundreds of reporters crowded into the brightly lit glass hall. Naomi appeared and presented a 72-page report. Number of discrimination incidents recorded in the last 18 months, 848. Targeted reduction after reforms, at least 90% within 6 months. Annual budget for training and oversight, $500,000. Profit sharing tied to diversity metrics, an additional 5% of total quarterly profit distributed to all employees if the hotel exceeds its goals. Naomi declared, "We are turning fairness into a metric of profit. When employees see that respect translates directly into income, they will no longer treat it as an empty slogan." The domino effect was immediate. Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt, the 3 largest hotel chains in America, announced the launch of unconscious bias training programs, citing Carter Hospitality as the model. Senator Elizabeth Warren mentioned the case during a hearing on corporate responsibility. The U.S. Department of Justice issued a statement praising Carter Hospitality as a self-reforming model worth following. Customers responded just as powerfully. Within 2 weeks, bookings across Carter hotels increased by 37%, far surpassing forecasts. Reviews on TripAdvisor and Google flooded with the same phrase. "Here, I truly felt welcome." Inside the company, the changes were even more visible. Every month, independent audit results were posted openly in hotel lobbies. Employees were encouraged to report anonymously, and for the first time, they felt their voices carried weight. A housekeeper said in an interview, "I used to witness guests being disrespected just because of their skin color, but I stayed silent for fear of losing my job. Now it is different. I know if I report it, someone will listen." The proportion of employees from diverse communities surged, surpassing 50% in just 1 year. Historically, Black colleges began sending interns to Carter properties as a first-choice destination. 6 months later, Naomi Carter stood at the podium of Harvard Business School. The auditorium was packed with students, professors, and executives from around the world. On the screen behind her was a chart, discrimination incidents within Carter's system, down 94%. Naomi looked around, her voice resonant. "We did not eliminate discrimination through punishment. We eliminated it by making discrimination impossible within a successful system." The audience rose to their feet, applauding like thunder. It was not just the hotel industry. The Carter effect spread to retail, airlines, and restaurants. Companies invited Naomi to consult, applying the Respect First model into their management systems. Some international corporations even purchased the license for the Carter Welcome app to roll it out worldwide. The Carter Foundation, established by Naomi, had already provided scholarships to thousands of students and funded unconscious bias training in 50 business schools. Naomi was also invited to speak at the United Nations, where she emphasized, "Dignity is not a privilege. Dignity is the standard." One evening, as the news reported that Carter Hospitality's stock price had risen another 18% in a single quarter, Naomi sat quietly in her office on the top floor, gazing down at the glowing city. She knew the road ahead was long, but she had proven one truth. True power does not lie in wealth or titles. True power lies in building a system where every human being is respected. Naomi closed her eyes, letting the city's noise blend with her heartbeat. A new chapter had begun, not only for Carter Hospitality, but for an entire generation of businesses. In business, people often think power lies in numbers, profits, or titles. But Naomi Carter's story proved that true power lies in the ability to turn respect into a standard and fairness into sustainable profit. When a system is built to protect human dignity, it does not only transform an industry, it transforms society itself. If you believe that respect must come before profit, hit like and subscribe to join us for more inspiring stories. And do not forget to leave a comment with the phrase "respect," because your voice and its ripple effect may be the very spark that ignites greater change.